All right, first question is, should hygienists be considered quote-unquote specialists? And I wrote down three things: non-surgical perio, education, and prevention. I thought about this question because I'm not saying specialist in like in a formal way, but like informal way. Because I've heard many times people say that hygienists actually have more hours in perio than dentists do in dental school. I don't know how true that is, but I can kind of believe it, I think, because dentists have to cover everything basically in dental school. Plus, I see like after hygiene school, it's very easy for a hygienist that cares, at least, that wants to read all the time. It's very easy for a hygienist to kind of separate themselves from the dentist because they have to really stay on top of everything, whereas a hygienist can really focus on perio and whatever. So I can see that happening, but only if the hygienist is willing to really get into it per se. So I think informally, some dentists could see hygienists as specialists in those areas. What do you guys think? Andrew, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So, I guess my problem with that, I'm going to say no. I don't think that they should be considered specialists or specializing. And as I was trying to figure out why I wanted to say no on that, I just, I don't think that as we keep renaming what a hygienist is, whether, like we talked about before, in Washington State, we have restorative hygienist, or we have the community health hygienist, or we have these, and we keep, I think we're kind of muddying the waters a little bit when we are specifically trying to get our name into like a different niche or a different subgroup, subculture, subcategory. So so no, I guess is my answer for right now until you guys convince me otherwise.
Daniel?
I feel like it really conflicts with the real meaning of a specialist. A specialist means somebody who, in the dental field at least, somebody who's gotten beyond just going to dental school, committed X number of years, X number of extremely challenging and rigorous study, and all that effort that goes into it to become a designated specialist. Everything we do is part of our standard education, and we do focus a lot on prevention and perio, but it's still standard for us. I think throwing like not throwing, but like labeling as a specialist kind of is sort of a self-serving kind of notion, but I could be wrong on that.
Trish?
Yeah, as far as being self-serving, we don't want to sound like we are above like a dentist or anything like that. But as using just the lexicon of a specialist, I think as preventive specialists, I mean, that's really what we are. There is no other dental specialist in the dentistry, and so yes, we are a specialist in that as far as preventing caries, looking at even parafunction before it starts causing problems, and of course perio and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, I think I think we can consider ourselves specialists, whether we promote that. I don't think that I would agree with you guys that we don't need that.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't use the word myself either.
But we can use it among ourselves because
yeah, right.
as we identify to ourselves, well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think also, there are several of us that are like on Hygiene Town and stuff. Some of you guys do parafunction and things like that. I have no idea anything about those types of things. So I would consider you guys maybe more of a specialist, and again, a very informal basis. I know Frances, she does a lot of perio stuff, using the perioscope and things like that. And there's a few people on there that do that kind of stuff. Where, yes, between us, I would say, yeah, you are the perio specialist, you are the local anesthesia specialist, you are really good at these certain little subcategories, but I wouldn't formally call myself a specialist of anything.
Would you guys say, though, that it's very possible for a hygienist to really know a lot more than a dentist, maybe like on average, or some dentists will say, in that area of prevention or non-surgical perio? Or you know what I'm saying? I think most dentists will probably think, I know exactly what the hygienist knows and more. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I see it as, if we could add it all up, like pile it all up, they probably have more knowledge, of course, overall. But I think in certain areas, I mean, if we really wanted to, we can really create a big gap if we really wanted to, I think.
Well, I mean, the analogy of like putting out fires is what hygienists or dentists do for the most part. They are going around fixing all of the problems. Why not prevent the fires in the first place? And I mean, that's really what hygienists, where we're specialized to really focus on that. We have a different angle and a different focus from what dentists do. And so I think we need to explore that side of it and really highlight what that means to our patients and to the greater community too as well, and not just as we focus on our patients in our offices. We really do need to reach out and make this a kind of a platform that we are focused on keeping you out of the dentist chair, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we'd have a different public perception if we were named like preventionists instead of hygienists from the get-go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, this was Krista McConaughey. You and I met her at the meeting. She had posted something. This just really kind of brought it out to me. Something that happened to her on a cruise. She was asked by two different couples at different times what she did for a living. The first time she said she was a dental hygienist, and they responded, "Oh." The next time she said she was an oral health care specialist. Nice. who collaborates with the dentist to prevent oral diseases. And she said that they responded that, well, I wish my dentist had one of those. Hello? I mean, it's just all in perception and how we present ourselves, I believe.
Yeah, to me, I think the word hygienist is just not really well known. So many patients still today they don't know what it means. They just think we're a nurse or we're like, what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, yeah, whatever. They don't really know what it is. And I think it's probably, unfortunately, a lost cause to try to educate people. Because people know what a dentist is, they have a general idea what a dentist is, but a hygienist, they're kind of confused, it seems like.
Yeah.
Right.
Going back to your question, Mark, on whether or not maybe we know more than dentists in this particular thing. The thing I've noticed with working over the last few years with several dentists is it seems like, and maybe it could be because of the advent of online CE courses or the dental towns of the internet, the Reddits and stuff like that, but it seems like the newer groups of the last 15 or 20 years that have graduated to be more investing their time into the hygiene side of things, the prevention, and things like that. I don't know if it's just maybe a cultural shift that we're experiencing, but it seems like my doctor's only been graduated probably maybe 20 years or so, and he really has a focus on that prevention, whereas the dentist I had before, who is now retired, didn't even care. He didn't care about the probings. He didn't care about anything. Everything's a quad scale, SRPs, if it's more than a year of between cleanings and things like that. So I wouldn't say that we know more, but I think the dentists are actually getting more involved, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would say it probably goes both ways. I mean, you can have a hygienist come out of school and really not get into it and really not learn that much more, and they kind of stay stagnant at that, what they learn in school, basically. Or you can have a hygienist that really gets into it and reads and 10 years down. I mean, I'm a different hygienist than I was 7 years ago. Some hygienists are probably worse than they were 7, because they didn't really get into it. And then some dentists, the same thing. Some dentists probably don't care too much about perio, and they kind of lose that knowledge. And so it probably goes both ways. I mean, probably many dentists will stay on top of those things too, just as much as a hygienist, and be just as knowledgeable, but they can just fall off track like any hygienist could and not get into it after hygiene school, basically.
I think one of the trends that has really developed over the past years, and this is just going by what I've read online and how I've spoken with things I've garnered from speaking to older dentists, is that with the advent of, or the development of evidence-based dentistry, now there's like kind of a generation that's looking more for the research, looking to see what actually works, what's proven to work, what is likely to actually affect health outcomes, whereas it seems like in like maybe up to the 90s or so, it wasn't the same as far as curriculum and hygiene school goes. But again, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But that's kind of what it seems like.
That sounds about right to me.
Like, it used to be a world of just textbooks, and now we've got the internet. We've got easy access to journals and studies and random controlled trials, and there's just so much more opportunity to learn how to take an evidence-based approach to dentistry.
That's a good point, Daniel, because I was in high school in the 80s. I'm 42 years old, and I remember doing papers for a class, going to the library, like
Microfiche?
yeah, microfiche, like now it's like so quick to do a report, because you just go online and find stuff, and I look back on those years. I can't imagine going back to that world.
Well, exactly. And I mean, we all have pretty much instant knowledge of when new products come out. We don't have to wait for the reps to come around to our offices and tell us when, whatever Profi cup is out and what's the best. It's like it's all out there on the internet for us to find, even, products as well as information and education and all that sort of thing. So it almost makes all of the CE requirements a moot point because we get educated every single day. We just don't get credit for all of the things that we do, get in our inboxes and that sort of thing. So yeah, there is, but the people that want to be educated are the ones that are kind of focused in on that group. There's no way to assure that all of the hygienists are, involved in dental hygiene like that. So it is voluntary. So of course, all of us are very much, on the edge of that. Yes.
As far as a part of education, we hygienists are with the patients most of the time. So I think that we naturally fall into that role of education. Even educating things about what the dentist does. So I think that's like an excellent place for hygienists to develop skills, communication skills. And I think probably too many hygienists don't do that. And they don't want to sell, quote unquote, sell dentistry or whatever the issue is. So what do you guys think about that? Us being the primary education person in the office.
I think you'll see a lot of dentists on the dental town boards whenever a hygiene topic comes up, saying that they rely on their hygienists to kind of prep patients for treatment. Say, you might hear X, Y, or Z from the dentist. This is what's going on, and they kind of not sell dentistry, but really get the patient ready to be open-minded or to hear what the dentist is going to say to them. So they find that they are a really integral part of actually performing or treatment planning dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
And along those lines, as far as building that relationship, having that trust that happens between a hygienist and a patient, they don't see you as having a vested interest in whatever the dentist is going to do. And basically, like Daniel said, is that we do prep the patients so that they understand what's best for them, so that they choose to get the treatment done that needs to be done versus thinking, well, only the dentist said something about it, so it must not be important.
Well, we do in our office. I start off the appointment by saying, hey, my name's Andrew, or hey, so-and-so, good to see you again, and I'll be taking care of you today. And I just set it up just like that. This is what we have planned. We're going to do x-rays, we're going to do a cleaning, doctor's going to come in and do an exam. And then during my time with them, I tell them my assessments, right, because we don't diagnose. And I just assess everything and say, in the past, this is what doctor has said before. He probably going to tell that to you too. So just be prepared for that. And then, again, it isn't selling anything. It is telling the patient that, hey, I'm invested in you also. Together, doctor and I and you are going to be a partnership, and we're going to fix whatever the problem is if you have one.
Very good. Let's see. Any more points about those areas? I can go to the next question if you guys want. About the first question? Nothing? We're good? All right. So we're not specialists. All right, wrote that down. Well, don't say it out loud, at least. All right. So next question: should all hygienists use loops? What do you guys think about that?
I've never worn loops, so I
How
have no
dare you? How dare you?
I've worn them. I've tried them. As far as I got.
Well, do any of us wear them? I don't wear them either.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So do you, Mark? I think you do,
yeah,
right?
I do,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yes, and well, and I was there were no loops that existed, I think, when I was in hygiene school. So it's been 20 plus years. That just wasn't even a topic of whether or not you needed them. So probably about 10 years after that, my co-hygienist had loops coming out of hygiene school, and she was surprised that I didn't have them, but I thought hers looked very heavy and bulky. They weren't the through the lens ones. They're the adjustable kind. And so when I finally found a pair of loops that was in my price range and that were lightweight, I haven't looked back. And if anything, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to my patients if I'm not using the loops. And not only that, if my loops are out of service, I would rather have my light. I have a headlight that I use, and you don't know what you can't see. And yeah, once you've seen it, it's like you can't unsee it. So that's how it is with loops. Once you've gotten used to it, going back to not having loops it feels like a travesty to me because I know I could do better. And it's like cheating too because my back doesn't hurt at the end of the day.
I do have a light.
Yeah. Oh, you have a light?
You do have a light. Well, see,
Light.
and I think I really do think that's half of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote that on my list too. You need a
What?
light. You need a light. Yeah, a headlamp is pretty good. I don't wear that either. But I know I'm terrible. But however, I do know a lot of hygienists in our state and in Oregon. They have them where they kind of switch off and on. So if they're doing restorative functions, and then they use them for that. My brother's one of those that he likes to use them all the time. He says he can't do a filling without it. For me, I think I use a lot of my just like tactile sense, of just everything as I'm trying to do my cleanings. So, I mean, if I leave a little bit of stain behind in some pit or something, I don't feel bad about that.
You should feel bad. I'm joking.
I just don't. It's not gone. I'm good to go.
Yeah. Well, here's my path. In hygiene school, they didn't make us buy them, but they had a rep come in from Sheer Vision, and probably half the class bought them. They told us for hygienists, 2.5 is enough. I have 4.5 now, but yeah, it's a lot. I know. That's max though for hygienists probably. So we started with 2.5 in school, but in school you're like still learning. So I didn't have a light at the time; it was just a loop. So I was struggling with the overhead light. So I kind of gave up on it. After a while, I just from the struggle, put them away after school for about a year. No loops, no light. It's worked that way. Then I bought like a really, really cheap headlight. I used that, and it was just nice to have a light and not have to worry about the overhead light or your head getting in the way and that kind of nonsense. And then after about a year of that light, because the battery would die so fast, I said I'm going to buy a good light. So I had Sheer Vision loops at the time. So I bought their Sheer Vision light, which was a really bright light. So I grabbed my loops out of the closet that had been sitting there for years. I put that headlight on it, and it was like I saw Jesus, So, and then after a while, I was at like maybe a year or so with 2.5s, and I kept finding myself bringing the patient even closer to me. So I was like, I want more. So I said, well, should I go 3.5? I said, I'm just going to jump. I don't care. I went to 4.5. I got used to it like a week, and like no problem. But for me, like now, I mean, if I don't have my loops, I have backup loops too, 4.5 backup loops, backup light. Because if I don't have it, I feel totally lost. And for me, like with 4.5s, especially with a good light, I mean, I can blow the gums back on an upper molar, and I can look down that pocket, like a good couple of millimeters easily. And for that, placing sealants, like, I mean, I'm like inside that tooth almost, So when I'm cleaning out the grooves, I use a thin scaler. I use like micro etcher and all that stuff, so I can really, really see the grooves. And I know, to me, without my loops, I'd rather not be a hygienist anymore. I mean, that's me, My wife is a hygienist too. I bought her loops, and she doesn't wear them. You know what I'm saying? And a
You
light
guys,
too.
you guys have a preference on what loops and light brands that you have come across that are good?
Yeah, well now I have Luminant Light. It's you can get a Dental Town discount on that too. So I think I got like 2 batteries and a light for like four something, which is not bad. It's a very nice, very light, very light light, isn't it? Um, my loops are cheap, actually kind of cheap loops. They're Medlight loops. I only paid like 450 for those. I priced one of the name brand ones at 4.5, and it was like 2 grand. I was like, I don't want to spend that much money on loops. So my loops are okay. I mean, they're fine. I priced Illumident. They have loops now. They have 4.0. I try those at Yankee, and those are like I think $800. So it's not that bad. And those are through the lens. I don't have through the lens. I have the flip up ones.
Right.
I want to get through the lens to get that lens like close to my eyes. It's much better, right, Trish?
Oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that was basically the problem I always had with the flip up is I was never going to wear those. It was just not going to happen. But I am looking at Lumidents, getting a spare pair, actually, and retiring my Sandy Grindle loops because they're modular, which means that the modules kind of don't always jive together with each other. After a while, they start trying to break apart, but it was still a really good investment because I've had that for about 10 years. But the through the lens, there's just no comparison because it is custom framed for you. The weight of it feels a lot more balanced. And not only that, you don't have the bulk of the loops getting in the way of you being able to see the patient's reactions, making sure that they're comfortable, making sure that they're not, making faces behind your loops because the big ones, tend to obscure a lot of that, and I don't get that with the through the lens. It's just there's a lot more. I hate to use the word intimacy, but it feels a little more intimate. No, I'm just saying because there's not this big like shield between you and the patient.
Do you have a name brand light, Daniel, or you have like kind of a cheap?
Yeah, Featherlight.
Oh, Featherlight. Okay, yeah. That's very very similar to the Luminant light. Yeah, it's very similar in size and all that.
When you guys are wearing your loops and you guys are given anesthetic, aren't you guys ever worried you're gonna poke the patient's lip or something like that? That's kind of the transition that I had a hard time with in school was, when I did have the flip downs, the big bulky ones, but I couldn't, and I was brand new in school too, but I almost poked somebody one time and it freaked me out. I never went back to loops because of that.
I've done it both ways. I kind of look past my loops and do it, or I don't have them on at all sometimes. But I've done it through the loops, 4.5, doing a block. But it works for me. Trish?
What's anesthesia?
Yeah, I use Polyphone, right? Yeah.
Oh, Texas.
Oh, Texas, come on, pass that bill. It's in there, right? Again, this.
Good luck.
Years. I know. Thank you. We're pushing. We're trying to make it happen.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to give it without having to wait for the dentist. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I say just close your eyes and use the force.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Pressure points, right? Acupressure.
So Andrew, have you given up on loops, or are you still thinking about?
They're actually in my cubby in my operatory at work for the one day that I'm going to be like, you know what? Everyone else is still doing it. It's not going away. I'm going to do it. But I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, I would say get the light though, because not having the light, it's not as good, because dealing with the overhead light with the loops, it stinks. So having the headlight and the loops, it's so nice to be able to, like that light just follows you as you work,
I'd say the best way you know that a light is magic. Is when you can see the distal of a third molar, an upper third molar, as bright as you can, a central incisor with the overhead light. And when you see that, you go, yeah, I'm never going to use the overhead light again because there's no shadow. There's absolutely no shadow when you use a light. So, yeah, lights. I'd say a light over a loop if you're just going to pick one.
Yeah, definitely. Headlights is more important, but those two together, it's magic. You can start with 2.5. You know, that's probably enough for most hygienists.
Especially ones that don't know how to use needles, right?
Right. I actually tried 6.0 just for the hell of it at the show, and that was like way too much. You know, it was like you're like right at the patient. You know, it's like way too much. But so 4.5 is definitely max, but 2.5 to 3.5 for hygienists most likely. That's probably the ideal. But
When you look for the 4.5, do you just see one single tooth at a time?
no, I see half the mouth basically. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
There are two kind of loops. There are prismatic loops.
Mhm.
Those are the wide view, like they advertise wide view.
Okay.
And you have like the Galilean, whatever it's called.
Mhm.
So the prismatic ones allow you to be close and spread the view. So I can actually see like, I mean, if I go back just a little bit, I can see half the mouth, or like the whole quadrant. But I usually see it maybe like 4 teeth, 3, 4 teeth. But I'm pretty close.
They
It's
have,
pretty big.
See, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
go ahead, Trish.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the difference between the prismatic and the Galilean, because obviously I have a Galilean and it's a quadrant that I see at a time, which at 2.5 is. Sometimes you're right, though, it's not enough, and I've been looking at. I think they have a 3.5 at Luminant, and that might be the one that I go to.
Yeah.
You know, to have for those special, you know, for doing sealants and that sort of thing.
When we were getting ours in school, they did a lot of distance, like working distances. Is that still kind of pretty important? Like I think they had like 16 inches, 18 inches, 22 inches, or is that not really talked about so much anymore?
It's kind of important, I think. I usually get the longest one they have, because even like the one I have is 21 inch, which is pretty long, and I still find myself not sitting up totally straight, and I'm like leaning forward a little bit. So yeah, so that's kind of important. Yeah, I mean to get like 15 or 17, I mean, I'll be a pretty short person, I think. You know?
I've got to get loops if only for the posture. I'm
Yeah.
practically like inside people's mouths upside down.
Yeah.
You'll still do that from time to time, but
Okay.
you do it less.
I see a lot of kids, and you know, kids always stare at me through the loops. You know, they're like, "What is that?" I said, "It's a laser beam." They go, "What?"
Don't move.
Don't move, son.
I'll have to use that.
So you guys think it should be mandatory in hygiene school in 2015? I mean, I think it should, but maybe it's pushing too much cost on the students. But when you know, like from the get-go, having the light, because to me, the problem in school for me was dealing with the loops and the overhead light, because you lose the light, but having the headlight is night and day for me. But so you guys think it's too much for students to be buying it, or?
I don't know. I'm not convinced still, but to throw
think-
all that right at them, it's a lot.
I guess do a
Yeah.
discount.
Well, if they were more affordable, I think it would just be one of those things that's part of your student kit over time. But at this point, it's personal preference. I don't look down on anybody who chooses not to, but I feel like that they're doing their body a disservice, probably first and foremost, if they're not using loops and lights. Are they harming patients without the use of them? No, I don't think so.
I
I could see it being feasible if they could source the cheaper ones, maybe for a couple $100 or massive sales that they could have all the students use, and then people can just work their way up from there. I mean, that's the price of a scaler, of an ultrasonic tip.
Yeah. I think if they went with a company like Luminant, I mean, they could probably get a pretty good deal. You know, I'm sure. I think some hygiene schools actually make the students buy it, and I know some dental schools do. They have to buy loops and a light. So I see the trend going that way. I think hygiene schools are going to start mandating it. I don't know.
To be honest, though, I could see how a dentist should probably have one compared to, for what I would do instead of what they're doing. I think it'd be pretty beneficial for them. I see one patient every hour. They can see multiple patients every hour. They need to make sure their posture is correct. They need to make sure that they're not missing things during examinations and things like that. But I can see that benefit, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that hygienists not using loops are providing low quality. I would not say that at all. I just think that you can provide more quality, a higher quality if you have loops. That's just me. I mean, because I'm so used to mine, and if I look at the teeth, outside the loops, oh my God, it seems so far away. And so I don't know. I think it's kind of like athletes, professional athletes, if on steroids, it's like no steroids and stuff.
Removable steroids.
Right. Yeah. All right. Any more thoughts on that question, guys? I can move on to the next one. No?
No.
Good, okay. All right, next question. Why did you become a dental hygienist?
I have the most boring story. My story is the most boring, so I'd probably go first, and then you guys can have your really introspective whatever. So, I was doing retail and stuff at the time, and my brother and I had decided that we would go into practice together, and we were going to be specialists. I was going to be an oral surgeon, and he was going to be a perio specialist. And then we were going to have, and the thing is, we're not even that close. I don't really know why. I mean, we're pretty close, but we're not like best buds. But we thought that it'd be really great to be able to share all the, because we both came from retail, like we'll share all the expenses, all the overhead. We'll have the same front desk people, we'll have the same, all the imaging stuff, and we thought we were just geniuses. And he had a friend who, his dad was a periodontist, and he's like, hey, that sounds like a good idea. We talked to a couple other dentists. He said, that sounds like a good idea. So we did our prereqs, and then we went to hygiene school. And by the time we finished hygiene school, the thing that we weren't really looking for, we weren't any foresight in was, hey, you just spent 4 years of your life becoming a hygienist when you could have spent 4 years of your life going on to a specialty program. By that time, I got married. I had 2 kids. He had a couple of kids, and then we were going to have another couple of kids. And it turned out that we ended up, I don't want to say settling to be a hygienist, but that's where we stopped in our progression. And so I was actually kind of bummed about that for a couple of years because I just didn't feel like I couldn't find out where I wanted to be in the hygiene world. I didn't want to be one of those people that would just go scrape teeth, go home, you're good to go. I mean, I wanted to really help people. And I thought that being an oral surgeon, I could do all sorts of surgeries, reconstructive things, cleft palate stuff. And there's a whole world of stuff that I thought that, now I'm going to be missing out on all of this stuff because I'm just a hygienist. But I started getting into, more like Hygiene Town. I started reading the journals and stuff like that a lot more. And it actually opened up a whole new realm of things that I can do. So, while yes, it's, it sounds like a really sad, pathetic story on my end. Like I'm not grateful to be a hygienist. I really am. But it actually took me a little bit of studying and searching for the things in hygiene that I wanted that I didn't know were available. And so that's kind of why I became a hygienist. I'm more like by default.
Daniel?
Oh, well, I think some people know I used to be a pastry chef. I went to culinary school back in like 2002, and I did that for a good 6-7 years. And I thought everything was okay being a pastry chef or a pastry cook until the economy dive hit in 2008, and I just kept getting laid off, one job after another. They would last 3-4 months before the restaurant would either have to downsize or just shut down completely. And it wasn't a very glamorous lifestyle to begin with. I spent 14, 15, 16 hours a day in a hot kitchen, sweating with a whole other team of people being paid $10 an hour to feed rich people, and it was very unfulfilling. My friend was going through dental school. He was in his he had just started when the dive hit, and he was like, you know what, you're looking for something to do. I know you want to stay working with your hands. Why don't you become a hygienist? It doesn't require that much of an investment compared to dental school like I'm going through. So I looked into it, did all my prereqs, and took a good 3.5, 4 years to finish. As wonderful as they say that it's a 2-year degree,
Right.
which is such a short-changing misconception. But yeah, and then that's how I got into it. But I mean, I don't see that as the real reason why I love hygiene. As far as like it being a better lifestyle and a better job, it is by far. But I've had so many more opportunities to do what I feel is really important for myself. I got lucky by getting a job in the clinic that I do soon after I graduated, and I work with the HIV/AIDS population. And one of the things that really makes me thankful for becoming a hygienist is that in the 80s, my grandparents both died of AIDS. And my aunt. And so this is kind of my way of like giving back, like working where I do. That's why I take all this. I've taken over 200 hours of continuing education just through the AIDS Education Training Center. I'm a part of the faculty now, and I get to do so much, which just gives back to the community, which helps me give back to my grandparents. So that's why, like, I don't know. I just feel like hygiene has really like opened up my world and become like what I was meant to do.
Trish?
Well, how do you follow that?
That's why I wanted
Oh
to
my God. Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, here we go again. My story is not anything glamorous or anything like that. It was basically, I always knew, even from like 4th grade, that I wanted to be in medicine. I wanted to be a veterinarian and take care of dogs, but dogs couldn't talk back. And so I thought, well, you know what, let's focus this on humans. And so I was pre-med for a couple of years. I had a friend of mine who was already in dentistry who said, oh, you could be a hygienist and just do that in 4 years and have a degree, instead of a pre-med degree that you can't, are going to be going and working at McDonald's with. And so I looked into the curriculum and said, oh, yeah, I'm almost there. So I just switched careers midstream and just kind of started into a focus on dental hygiene, thinking that it was only what I had experienced as a patient, which was, what kids experience, just the normal stuff. I had a great dentist office that I went to it made it a very positive experience for me. So the first time I saw blood, I just about died. I'm like, what do you mean people bleed? And when they go get their teeth cleaned, it really threw me for a loop. But then it got cool because it's like, yeah, they bleed.
Awesome.
No, because that's really kind of what focuses us on medicine is we have to like what we do. We have to like the trench part of it, and I mean, for me, it really started with being able to communicate with people and to affect lives. And now that I'm a hygienist, why would I go back to school and be something else when I am on the front lines doing, the prevention? It may be very specialized, but it's still making a difference in people's lives. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing it for over 20 years and don't see any signs of it slowing down. It's just been an amazing career. Just for professional growth and also, just personal, just knowing I make a difference in people's lives.
Very nice. My story began basically in 1995. I was in the Air Force for 10 years, from 92 to 2003, about 10 and a half years actually. And in 95, I was stationed in Germany for 4 years. My first 4 years was in Germany. And we had a lot of reservists come through air all the time. They're always doing their annual 2-week training. Sometimes they would volunteer because we always needed people and they would volunteer for like 3 or 4 months at a time. And we had a guy that volunteered for 4 months for the summer, and he was going through nursing school at the time. And they always wanted us to train the reservists, and people in my office, they didn't want to bother with the reservists. I don't know why. They just didn't like to deal with them. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed teaching the reservists one-on-one, basically. And so I talked with this guy every day, about nursing school, and he was like so into it. So that kind of got me into the medical mindset. I never thought about medical before. And then, fast forward, I mean, there's more to it, but fast forward to like 2000 maybe. And I had 2 different jobs in the Air Force. The second job I had, I was a manpower analyst, boring as hell, in the cubicle. Couldn't stand it. I couldn't get out of it, so at 10 years, you kind of have to decide, you're going to stay 20, get a retirement, or you're going to get out. Well, I got out. But in 2000, before that, I decided, okay, I kind of looked into dental. My second choice was to be a math teacher, actually, in high school or middle school, because I like teaching. But I like teaching the one-on-one, so when I kind of looked into dental and dental hygiene, I didn't want to do dental school because I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not, and I couldn't afford to be in school for that long, so. And so to me, like hygiene, like it is one-on-one, teaching, education. So that was nice. And of course, the pay is good and all that, but all the other stuff about hygiene sounded good. So that's when I decided, okay, 2000, I'm just gonna save my money. I have the GI Bill. I started hygiene school in 2005 because I didn't get into 2005. That's a whole story. It's tough to get in. And for me, I like it, but now I look back on it, I wouldn't have chosen dental school anyway because just the finances weren't there. I had a GI Bill and stuff, but still. And but I think back on my life, I think I should have went to dental school 15 years ago because I think I would have liked to be a dentist. But I considered dental school 2 years ago at the age of 40, but financially it wasn't going to work for me. But hygiene ended up being something I enjoyed. I like it, and it's given me opportunities beyond clinical that I didn't even think would happen. Like I didn't plan the cone adapt or anything. It just came, just happened, And now I'm doing this blog and other stuff, and I'm hoping to monetize that. I've been invited to speak at the Townie thing before, and other speaking things. So I kind of want to move that way, and hygiene has been really good to me because all the stuff that I've gotten to do. So that's why I became a hygienist, basically. It just sounded good at first. It was definitely more than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be that much work in hygiene school, but it's been good for me. That's my story.
As the young people come through and they're like, hey, we're starting college and things like that. And in our area, we have a lot of people that are choosing very similar between nursing and hygiene, or X-ray tech or whatever. Everyone wants to do kind of that medical field. And we have these conversations with them. And we say, okay, well, this is what I do as a hygienist, and I give them everything. But the thing that I have a hard time with, and truly for most, I think all 4 of us are probably okay as far as finding that outside fulfillment, other than the one-on-one teaching. I think a lot of hygienists are kind of bored in their job, though, and I think that's the one thing that I can't really address to these young people who are saying, well, I want to be an ER nurse, or I want to be work in the maternity ward or whatever. There's a certain component that I just can't get. I just can't get over and say, yes, that's why you should do hygiene over nursing. Is any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I hear a lot of people you see it's a very common question on the Facebook groups and Hygiene Town, wherever. Mm-hmm. People, especially now with the economy, how it's been since 2008, basically, people having trouble finding, at least 32 hours a week of hygiene. And so many people say, I want to go to nursing school or something, and they're asking about opportunities outside hygiene, clinical hygiene. And to me, I think a lot of them are just looking for the money. They just see nursing as, it's a guaranteed job. I know in my hygiene school, we had a lot of people that were there for the money, basically, because that was 2005 and 2007. I went to hygiene school, and it was pretty easy to find a job at that time. And that kind of bothers me a little bit to see people that are in it for the money, because they end up being those hygienists that are just basically scrape teeth and go home, and they're not very, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
But-
really good on commission, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so when people ask about those opportunities outside the clinic, I've posted many times, it's most things outside clinic is just it's not things that are actual jobs.
I
You
saw
know,
when you commented,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They're not advertising, they're not advertising somebody to test instruments for a company or something. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's advertising for a consultant. I mean, if you want to be a consultant, you have to make it happen. I don't know how to do it because I'm not a consultant, but I'm just saying, like there's no Craigslist posting for that, So people ask those things. I think most hygienists are just looking for the security, the guaranteed path, and unfortunately a lot of it is not guaranteed and it's not a clear path. Thoughts?
That could be a topic in and of itself, the hygiene consulting, because I wouldn't say a lot of people, but I see that there are many more people doing that now than even when I first graduated, and that was only 3 years ago. And I've seen what the replies and the feedback they're getting and how they're kind of changing the landscape of the dental practice or these private practices. And often, like, it's complaints and about how much harder it is and how much more production they have to do. Obviously, that's a subject to talk about at length probably, but it's definitely an interesting thing as far as branching out and kind of developing an entirely new beast in the dental field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you guys had consultants come in your office at all, or? I haven't, so I don't know.
I've probably been through 4 or 5 consultants in my career, and we stick with them for a few months, and then somebody does some everybody gather around the person, let them fall backwards thing, and it's like no. Where are we in the 1990s?
Right.
It's like really, it's coming. I mean, not literally, but something like that comes up, and it's like, what are we really doing, spending our money listening to these people when we really should be focusing on what's important to us? And it's like, basically, we don't have any consultants right now helping us. If anything, we've even got somebody in our office that is doing metrics for other dental offices too. So it's kind of nice to be in a incubator of that sort of thought in our office. So we're not directly consulting, but it's having our processes affect other dental offices. It's kind of enriching.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking around my walls to see if I have. I graduated from one of the consulting groups.
Congratulations.
Trish, have you ever done the Whitehall consulting?
I don't know. I've heard of them. I have not used them. No.
And I actually had a good experience with them because they were hygiene driven, but not hygiene driven in the like the commission-based stuff. It was more of, hey, let's keep a healthy hygiene pool through X, Y, and Z, and then you, dentists, can start pulling your treatment from them because you build that trust and you build that relationship. It's actually really good. I'm not saying anyone should go with them, by the way. I'm not paid spokesman or anything for them.
Today's sponsor.
But the thing is, I think there are good consultants out there who are driven for the right, in what my opinion of what is right. There are good consultants out there, but there are also some just money hungry. Let's SRP everything so we can make $300 a quad and blah blah blah. So you gotta be careful.
I can see the benefit of having an outsider come in, a different pair of eyes looking at things and asking questions. Because I think a lot of times people get stuck in their dynamics in their office, and just having an outsider come in and just ask questions, or maybe ask questions that the dentist doesn't want to ask. Maybe, I don't know, right?
Depends, I guess, on how involved the dentist is in his own practice or her practice, and if they're driven by metrics, if they're driven by money, if they're driven by the love of what they do, love of what we do, things like that, love of the people. Depends on what their motivation is. And if it is money, then you're probably gonna have a consultant come through your office a time or two.
Mm-hmm. Can you guys talk a little bit about some of the things that you guys do outside clinical hygiene? I know, Trish, you have your blog, and Andrew, you're doing CE, right, with Dr. Murphy? Right?
Start with Trish real quick, because I want to hear what Trish does.
Oh, well, it kind of has the blog started as a platform to be able to basically host our own advertising, and said, oh, well, we need content here. Trish, you write it. And so I did, but it started kind of taking a life of its own, and I said, you know what, I really have a passion for communicating outside of, the one-on-one with patients, and said, you know what, let's talk to the greater dental community about things that nobody else really touches on. And as mundane as it is, sometimes it's like, you know what, having a little bit of just a different perspective than is kind of nice to have, and it's nice to just vomit all over the internet sometimes, and see what happens. That's kind of what it feels like sometimes. It's like, yeah, this is what's in me here. Let's just put it out there. But it's been, we got quite a bit of movement going with a fellow hygienist from Hygiene Town. She's the one that helped get the plastic specks out of toothpaste. She came to me and she said, would you write this? And I'm like, of course. And so we collaborated on an article that showed up on our blog. And, Crest is supposed to be taking steps to remove all of their microbeads, but it remains to be seen what happens to the supply chain at this point. So,
yeah,
but it was something, and it was cool to be able to have, make that effect on the world.
You got on TV and everything.
Yeah, 5 seconds.
Still, that's impressive. Yeah, it blew up.
It did. Well, it's because, and that's the thing. It's what nobody else is talking about. Let's find those things in hygiene. I think that's what what you're trying to do here, Mark, is just let's explore some topics that people don't realize they need to be explored.
Trish, do you think that if you weren't already doing the blog and things like that, do you think that your voice would have been heard as loudly as it was when it comes to the microbeads and stuff?
You can thank Google for that. Indexing and that sort of thing. Yeah, probably. I really don't think it had anything to do except for the fact that it wasn't established. It was searchable, and there was a it grew from the connection of hygienists that have each other on Facebook. There's a lot of Facebook groups, and that's instant on your phone. And when you see something like that, it's really, Facebook makes it easy to just kind of make something go viral in, a matter of hours. And that's really where I think, that the social media aspect of dental hygiene and how we can affect dentistry, for not only our profession, but for the, things like this that affect the public. That's really where we have a huge amount of ability that we didn't have 20 years ago.
Well, as far as what I've got going on outside of work, my clinical stuff, yeah, I'm doing a little bit of continuing education courses. I'm putting together a 4-hour local anesthesia course right now, and that's going to be partially in conjunction with the mission trips that I do with Dr. Murph and Fletcher for dental development seminars. I'm their hygiene instructor / recruiter / anything hygiene, kind of a catch-all title, whatever it is, motivator, whatever. To go, we do that the 3-day hands-on anesthesia course. So you have 2 days of lecture, then 3 days of hands-on, and it's actually been pretty well received the last 2 years. 2014 is when we pretty much started launching the hygiene component of that. They've been doing the dental side, I think, since 2011 or something like that. But so I have that going on, and then on my personal work, the thing that I'm actually most proud about what I do is I have the opportunity to go out and I give lectures on charitable dentistry. And I started out actually with talking to a few people in Hygiene Town about how to get it started, and this is last year. And everyone said you're never going to get traction with that. No one's going to want to do that. No one's going to want to listen to you. Going on and on and on about charitable dentistry or mission trips or whatever you want to call it, humanitarian trips. And so I started out small. I started out here at YVC, the Yakima Valley Community College, and the director said, hey, well, could you come in and talk to the senior students and give them some kind of like more like direction, like, hey, here's some other things you can do outside of hygiene when you finally have your degree. And then it slowly built up into this different groups. So I think this year, someone we've actually met in Hygiene Town invited me to come down to New Mexico and give a lecture. And then I'm going down to Arizona and giving another lecture. And this is all in charitable dentistry. The beautiful thing about this is I can pay my own expenses, and I don't ask for any honorariums for this particular course. And a little bit as a self-serving, if anyone knows anyone that would like to have me come over, I don't mind coming over. We'd have to schedule it maybe a little bit out or whatever, and financially I have to make sure that I'm able to do it. But I love giving that little spiel about, hey, we need to do more as dental hygienists other than go in, make our money, and leave again. And my lecture is, you have local, national, international opportunities, and let's focus on what you can do based on your means. And so I have a lot of ideas, and we have very simple things from just your local sealant days to international trips. Like I know Daniel and I have both been with Somos Amigos and gone down there. So those types of trips. So of course Somos has a big part in my lecture as well, because I had a great experience and it wasn't very expensive at all. And so and in consulting, I was over in Idaho and I did a good type of consulting, I hope. Where again, it was free. It was, hey, Andrew, our office wants to do a mission trip together. What can you do some research and kind of help us figure out what we want? So I went over on their lunch break one time, and it's only about 4 hours away, so it was no big deal. And I said, here's what I found. This is what I think is the most, if it's for costs, if it's the country that they're looking for, and I have all these things for them that I was happy to do, and it was really well received. So I started a blog also, but it's not going to be as popular as you guys' blogs. I don't know. I don't update it nearly as much as you guys do. But just what was the word you used, Trish? Vomiting all over the internet.
Yeah.
Opportunity for me to get my words out there more than I already do. So that's pretty much what I have going on.
Daniel?
I do a lot. So I guess most of what I do outside of straight hygiene is both in my facility and with the AIDS education training centers. I'll start with the ATC. So the ATC is an extension of the federal Ryan White program, which provides funds for a number of things related to HIV care, whether it's funding people's medical care so that they get the proper care, that they get the disease treated, they get their medications, funding facilities like mine, paying for, kind of subsidizing them so they can provide good quality treatment for underprivileged and underserved communities. And also a big component of that is providing education for basically all health professionals. So the oral pathologist that I learned from in hygiene school, she's a faculty on the AETC as well. And once I started working at my clinic, she got me involved with them. So I've done, like I said, close to 200 hours of continuing education. And now I'm developing a program at my clinic to teach dentists and hygienists the ins and outs from start to finish about treating HIV-positive patients in the clinic, like along with side patients. So you can see everything from how treatment goes to what we look for to our interactions with the medical staff. So there's that. And within the facility, I do quite a bit too. I teach alongside the HIV 101 classes for basically newly diagnosed patients who are just wondering, what is this disease I have? What am I doing? Where does my life go from now? I tag along with a nurse, and she teaches everything that they basically need to know about starting their lives over with this, and which is not that impactful now as it was 20 years ago, but still. And then I do a dental segment at the end of it. I teach them about oral health. I teach them everything, like how we can see manifestations in their mouth, what kind of things they have to look out for, what are they susceptible to now that they're HIV positive, and if their immune system starts to falter. I do interdepartment education for the medical doctors and the nurses. I teach them about the oral systemic connection, how they can educate their patients on prevention, and when to call us down in the dental department to come up and take a look at something because they find something suspicious. And I'm also working to develop a mobile truck service because we have a truck that does teen outreach for free. They go out to different high schools and just give like medical screenings and whatnot. So I'm working on developing a dental screening program for that and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I think what the last significant thing I do is that I act as a liaison between the dentists and the doctors. Whenever I find something medically that the dentists need to know about, I make sure that it's addressed, and I pull up the patients, like say their labs, and so that we don't give improper treatment. And when they find something that the doctors need to know about, I contact the doctors and I explain everything, and basically just act as a bridge there.
Do you blog at all, Daniel? You should if you don't.
I got a website. It's guygenist.nyc.
And so I kind of messed up the guygenist thing here today.
You're honorary.
We need it. Yeah. We just need to round it out even more. I don't know how we would get 6 or 7 people going, but I guess we could. We just make it longer.
Yeah.
Smaller question.
There's nothing on the site, but it's there.
I like hygienist. That's good.
But it's so difficult to find female hygienists,
Yeah.
Oh, I know. What's up with that?
I mean,
I don't.
Yeah, male hygienists like a dime a dozen.
This is right. Yeah, that's why this is such an anomaly. It's like
we're the 1%.
Nobody else has signed up to do this.
Yeah.
Maybe you intimidate all the women. I don't know. I'm a little bit intimidated, but I had to show somebody. It's like, what, we can all step up and do this. Okay, so somebody else can do this next time for me.
You're not going to find a nicer group of guys than Mark and Daniel. So I'm sorry, you guys aren't that intimidating. Sorry.
No, I don't think so. I'm very nice.
This has been good. It's been real good.
The people on the boards don't seem to think I'm very nice.
Yeah.
Straightforward on the boards. That's what it is.
I'm a little spicy. I don't get. That's fine.
Hey, Daniel, I got a question though about the trainings and stuff that you give out. Is there something like, okay, if I wanted to come and learn from you, is there an opportunity for me to go do that as a hygienist?
I mean, once it's set up, yeah, you can certainly fly over to New York City, but there are regional AATCs, so the best thing you could do would be look up your regional one and see what the resources are. Everything that you learn today, everything is free, completely free. So that 200 hours of CE I got was all free, and it's continuing medical education. It's very legit. Like every single association accepts it, and yeah, like all the resources are available just to the regional one. They set up like conferences and whatnot, and there's a lot of opportunity.
Do you guys have? Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just saying, I think that's just a really good resource, and one of the threads that kind of resurfaced again, I think it resurfaced on the Hygiene Town boards was about re-sterilizing something, right? It drove me freaking crazy, and just the ignorance of everything. So I mean, if we have this resource that's even regional, that's even better.
Yeah, it's throughout the country.
Good deal.
Do you guys have any plans of? Do you guys all work full time?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, you guys work full time, Trish? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have any plans of going part time and doing the stuff outside clinical as your primary source of income at any time? Or, I mean, do you guys see yourself doing that or no?
I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
For me, it just really depends on the way the wind blows. So I've got one kid exiting high school, one kid entering high school. So I don't anticipate not being full time for all of that college education expenditure. But yeah, and I enjoy what I do, and my body's still holding out. So I don't know why I would quit. Because
you wear loops.
That didn't sound like a dig.
I think for me, I struggle with this question a lot, actually, because on the one hand, I would love to get paid. I think I made a comment the other day. If I could get $100,000 and someone pays all my expenses to go travel around the country and speak, why wouldn't I? You know. But on the other hand, you know, there's something nice about being home with the kids, being, you know, and having that family life. I work 4/10s, and so a lot of times I'm able to go and travel and go somewhere else on my 3 days off or my 4 days off or whatever I end up getting. And with my company, since it's so large, you know, I think I've done almost 700 hours of overtime the last 2 years combined. So, I mean, I'm able to work a lot too and make extra money to have more fun. So it's kind of a trade-off. I guess I don't really know the answer at this point, but I'm definitely open to it if should the right thing come along.
I think one of the challenges for a lot of hygienists that do want to do other things is we make, you know, so much money as hygienists.
Mm-hmm.
So to replace that income, they would have to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, if we're making $15 an hour, I mean, it'd be a lot easier to replace that income with something on the outside, but trying to replace, you know, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 a year or whatever, it's more of a challenge.
Yeah.
So,
What about you?
my plan, I would like to do that. Yeah, I like to work 1 day a week. I mean, ideally, I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm full time now. I work 4 days a week, but I would like to do that at some point. You know, I'm doing the blog. I'm doing this. I want to create the podcast. I'm going to try to monetize it with sponsors. I want to create some courses online off the web page. One of them is very video focused. You know, like with a lot of action shots and that kind of stuff. Like one I have in mind is placing sealants well. One is to implement the isolate system into hygiene as a course. So hopefully I can make money doing that, but we'll see. I don't know. That's the plan at least. Hopefully I can get some sponsors. I think I can. I mean, if I can get it seems like podcasts get way more downloads than video views on YouTube.
Right.
It's kind of the trend. So even if I got like 1,000 downloads per episode on the podcast, I think I can monetize that. I mean, I have some connections just from people I've interviewed to get sponsorship. So hopefully, I mean, Isolate I think wants to do it. So.
Have you? Did you ever listen to the Startup, that podcast?
The Startup?
Yeah, it's called the Startup. I think
so. No.
I think Alan Mead was talking about it one time on one of his podcasts, but you should listen to it. They just finished season 1, and they have a nice thing about trying to get sponsors and things like that. And it actually kind of drove me to want to maybe think about doing a podcast myself, just because they're getting more money than we'd ever get for their sponsors per episode. But
yeah.
instead of something like $5,000 or $6,000 per 1 minute sponsorship in their 30-minute episode, something like that. So I mean, there is money to be made in that if you can do it.
Well, for me, that's why I'm trying to keep everything I do hygiene focused to create a niche, you know, so I can approach companies that are hygiene. Like the 3 companies, Isolate, obviously, I have a very great connection with them now. Parkel, because I use their products a lot. I gave away a Parkel tip. I don't know if you guys saw that on my Facebook page as a way to drive traffic. And somebody from Penwell saw that. They called Parkel, and they called me right away, and then they hooked me up basically. And I had a long conversation, and I said, yeah, I'm looking, you know, in the future when I build this up to get sponsorship, and so they're excited about it. Isolate, American Eagle Instruments, because I use those instruments. I only sponsor things I use.
Yeah. You buy a lot of the equipment that you use, right?
I do.
I think that would be a pretty good future topic, is the prospect of buying your own equipment and what opportunities that opens up for you.
Yeah, I have that on my list because I did a blog post about that, and I would say most people responded in a negative. You know, they say hygienists shouldn't have to buy those things, which I guess technically is correct, but I don't want to suffer. You know, so I gave up and I just bought my own stuff.
See, I'm on your side of the fence.
Yeah.
I mean, the other toy, I'm gonna get it.
Yeah. The other hygienists I work with use my stuff. That's how crazy I am about it, but I don't mind, you know, but they're happy about it, that's for sure.
Corporations. So our company takes we have PDT, Paradise Dental Instruments, So I'm partial to those ones anyways. I just like the handles and I like the way it works. But
And the colors too.
yeah, they're so pretty. Helps me keep them all organized and straight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never have to worry about that. So yeah, we should talk about that another time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was talking to Andrew about, because my initial thought about doing these roundtables, the podcast is going to be mostly these roundtables. I'll probably do a couple of solo podcasts on my own, just like telling my story of the cone adapter and things like that, and me failing boards, which that's a whole story, you know.
I think I read about that
the
other day.
That was very frustrating. Yeah, so I wanna make it mostly these roundtables. So like today we did 3 topics, and I'll probably split it up. But initially I was thinking of having different hygienists all the time. You know, for the most part, not every time, but from Hygiene Town mostly. But it just seems like it's tough to get people to come on. You know, you know. And I think it'd probably be better if you guys were willing. I already talked to Andrew about this. If you guys could do this like once a month, say.
I sure can.
Yeah, once a month we'll do like 3 topics. I'll split it up, and that'll be 3 podcasts. And I think it's better that way because I think people will get to know us as personalities, as opposed to having different people all the time. Any thoughts on that, Trish? You want to do it?
I'm game.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Just let's make it a monthly thing.
I mean, I might have other people at some points, but like I want to do a podcast about cycling. Do you guys bicycle by any chance? Anybody?
I don't.
Okay, all right.
I like to imagine I'd be into it.
Actually, no.
Does elliptical count?
Well,
it's got a wheel.
Yeah, I got 2 people so far. I got Lewis Myers from American Eagle. He's not a hygienist, but obviously he works with hygienists a lot. He's the national marketing guy over there, and he's a big cyclist, and I cycle a lot. And he got a hygienist hooked up with us to do it. So I'm trying to get one more person, hopefully a hygienist, but if it's a dentist, that's fine too. Just basically talk about cycling and how working out helps, that kind of stuff, but focus on cycling.
Seems like I just saw something on the Dental Town threads about cycling recently.
That was me, probably.
You started?
Yeah, I posted something to get people. I got one dentist, he PM'd me about it.
Okay.
So I'm just waiting for his response. So if he's the only one, I'll probably have him on, and then we'll have like a nice round, hygienist, dentist, somebody in the business side of things. Just talk about dentistry and how it helps our profession, how it helps your life. I mean, I love cycling. I've been cycling since '93, so yeah, I like it a lot.
Nice.
He's pretty extreme about it, though. Lewis Myers, he rides quite a bit. Yeah. All right, so I think I'll stop there.
Was that a Star Trek sound cue?
I don't know. What was that?
Oh, you heard that? Yeah. it was my community. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. This is terrible. Okay, so yeah, that's my notification that I got an email. And this wouldn't say anything about. Let me see. There it is.
Wow! Awesome.
It's actually a piece of a meteorite. So no, I'm not a Star Trek geek or anything.
No, not at all.
I was just like, no, it's not my communicator.
Moment of silence for Leonard Nimoy.
Yes.
Yes.
That's it.
All right, so I guess that's it for today. I appreciate it. Thanks for doing this. I think this would be awesome to do every month, and
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me and all of us.
And basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop it up, into the 3 topics, and I'm going to create an intro. So I'll have everybody's blog, site and all that. I'll mention that in the beginning, and then we'll get into us talking basically. So if you guys have anything you want to plug or anything, just let me know, and I'll just add that to my intro when I record it.
All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'm going to stop broadcasting.